Hey guys, welcome to BHL's Conversations. Today we're talking to Al Gregg, who is the writer and director of the Jamaica House documentary that is premiering at the Pan-African Film Festival this month. We're talking the Club Night, one of LA's most prolific club nights, and the doc right after this.
You are tuned in to Black Hollywood Live Conversations.
This is the song.
It is.
It captures it all.
To live and die in
To live and die in LA.
Oh my goodness. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to tell these stories, tell my story. It's almost like a love letter to LA, really.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's up, guys? I'm your host, Alina Vision. I'm just so stoked that you are coming out with this amazing documentary and we get a chance to talk about it here on Conversations. So first off, this is actually going to be premiering at the Pan-African Film Festival. It is Black History Month, so I could not think of a more perfect time, especially for this documentary. I watched it. I was in awe. I was amazed. I loved it. I think it's something that people definitely need to go out and see.
Thanks.
So for those of you out there, the screening is February 9th at 9:20 p.m. and Monday, February 11th at 4 p.m. But before we do that, I just want to kind of, get to know you as a director. What led you into filmmaking?
Well, I was born and raised in LA. It's a big part of my story. I'm one of the few people who actually grew up here. Queen of Angels Hospital, grew up in the Baldwin Hills, Crenshaw District. Autobiographical. Because it's not just the story of Jamaica House, this legendary hip hop and reggae club of the 90s. It's the stories of the guys who put it together. Kind of like a coming of age story, not just for us,
Ready when you are.
but for hip hop as well as the music. And so we'll get a taste, in the clip.
Let's check it out.
When you came to LA, Jamaica House is where you wanted to be, because that's where everybody went. That was the spot.
Being at Jamaica House, you never knew who was going to get on that stage. Being at the Music Machine bear witness to Jamaica House.
The chef right here from Wu-Tang Clan. You already doing it big. Jamaica House.
The Fuji,
Nas,
Biggie,
Gangstar, Farside,
Tribe Called Quest,
Drew Down,
EPMD, De La Soul,
Delta Funky Over Sapien,
Digital Underground, Above the Law.
Okay, well, let's start off at the beginning. So take us back to when Jamaica House was just an idea.
Shout out to my partners, David and Howard. David and Howard are the guys who thought of the actual club with its inception. But because we were all best friends, we all went to elementary school together, they brought me in and another guy named Mike O'Connor in. And we're all like a little crew, It was like cracking from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like Mike, his cousin, I guess, is like Tone Loc, okay? And like we all knew a lot of people. Ice-T came down the first night and performed.
Dang.
That's how hot it was. So,
Yeah.
so they set it off. And shout out to Ice because he's getting more involved in the film. And then like a year later, Tupac started coming down. Back then, these were all promotional shows. Now, obviously, you have to pay artists tons of money. But back then, they would come to us. They would want to play for free.
Right.
And half the time, the labels were sponsoring us. All the labels, Universal, the Def Jams, and as well as all the radio stations in LA. It was the original 92.3, then the original K-Day, then the new K-Day, and then Power. It's not just about the music and the underground culture in LA, but this was a very significant time in Los Angeles. We're talking about, since we began the club in '89, we're coming out of the '80s crack era. We're coming out of Reaganomics.
Right.
Reagan had ended all these social programs, who put the homeless on the street or people who had mental challenges, no place to go. He had cut off all the after-school programs.
Right.
So there was this slew of people on the street in a vacuum where all these other positive outlets for them had been taken away. And so you see, I don't want to get too deep into the whole idea about how crack was pumped into this country by the CIA, but particularly in South Central Los Angeles. But that's when you saw like the gangs go from super gangs. The Crips and the Bloods were like super Crips and super Bloods, and Jamaica House kind of came out of that era. And unfortunately, you can see kind of like how that element, I guess, infiltrated the club and the music as well.
Right.
But the positive point I was getting back to is that with all this climate going on in Los Angeles, all this conflict, Rodney King had literally just happened like in 1992.
3 police officers facing felony criminal charges who stopped a 25-year-old black man.
It's on now. It's on. I'm serious. Don't y'all feel it?
When the uprising came, I think for a brief moment, it made us look at each other and say, we out here wilding and look what they can do to us at the drop of a hat, because it's definitely a whole nother power against us.
this happened on night one of the Los Angeles riots. We called the uprising, was a night of Jamaica House on a Wednesday night. And literally the city was burning. Pac comes in. Everybody's like, Pac's here. He wants to get in. How do we get him in? How do we get him? Let's bring him to the back.
Yeah.
Smuggle him through the back. Put the camera up, and he just dishes this ill freestyle against the LAPD and Daryl Gates, you know, just basically about, it's so relevant right now. We're talking about, you know, police killing of unarmed black men. Shout out to all the good police though that back then and right now. But it was a very explosive time in Los Angeles, and a really, I guess you could say, a real pivotal point in history.
Yeah, and the fact that you were able to catch that on camera, and especially Tupac saying all that backstage, I mean,
it was like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's great to see it in the doc film. So you kind of touched on how the culture reflected the night. How did the night kind of reflect the culture and vice versa?
They definitely influenced each other. Let me give you an example. Okay, if Jamaica House was where all the creative people came. Shout out to my boy Jason Sugars. He talks about how this person who came was just originally starting up as a stylist, a designer. My girl Julie Z, shout out to her to her fashion line. She was starting her thing out, and then my boy was starting his t-shirt line out, and I was starting out in film, and then David and Howard, my partners, were starting off a record label, and Paul Stewart was starting out like his Power Move Promotions. All these guys, my boy Eddie Donaldson, everybody was doing like these wonderful, creative, musical, authentic things in Los Angeles. And Jamaica House was kind of like where everybody came. And not only did they bring their different ideas and their different tastes to it, out of Jamaica House would become more ideas and more influences. Case in point, okay, the Black Eyed Peas. Man, I remember will.i.am. He was a break dancer at Jamaica House. At him and, you know, my boy Fat Lip from Far Side. I remember them battle dancing, pop locking. And like, this is, I think, when Black Eyed Peas were like at that clan or something like that for all you OGs out there. And they went from that to 5 years later being on the Jamaica House stage. So that's how we influenced the culture and influenced the night.
Right. It is going to be airing on February 9th at 9:20 p.m. and Monday, February 11th at 4 p.m. down there. Yeah,
I just want to plug some other things that
Go for it.
Before we get out of along the lines of the plug in Jamaica House. You can always follow us to get in touch with us at JamaicaHouseMovie.com. You'll see our socials down there. And also, I want to give a shout out to my homegirl, Lori Bula. She was my producer for my first documentary.
Oh, dope.
I did a documentary on Shepard Fairey called Manifest Hope, where I documented his whole process of coming up with the Hope image. And I followed him around, you know, like bombing LA and, you know, and putting up the posters and all the way to DC. And Lori was the first person who I guess kind of like gave me a shot and found me a little bit of funding from like MoveOn.org. And, you know, she put me in a position where I could do my first documentary. And it's like those things, you never know what happens from there. So back then I was able to, you know, get a reel, shoot Moby, De La. So I've worked with Cube since then as a director, and, you know, I just can't wait for more things to happen. So thanks for everybody's help in the past.
Yes, yes. And we can't wait to see more documentaries from you. Definitely. Super excited about this. All right. Well, where can people find you?
Everybody, you can find me on Twitter at Jamaica House Doc, and also on IG. I'm going to spell this out carefully. ALG_Jamaica House Film. That's my IG. Oh, and you can get tickets for Jamaica House, thank you, at PAFF.org. That stands for Pan African Film Festival. PAFF.org. Get tickets for Jamaica House for the screening this Saturday. This Saturday, 9 o'clock.
Yes,
thank you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for coming in. It was great to talk to you.
Thank
you can always check us out on Mondays on Black Twitter. Right here on BHL. I'm Alina Vision. You can follow me on all social media at Alina Vision. And that's Vision with 2 S's. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
From executives Kevin Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to